Welcome to this lesson of verbal reasoning, where we're going to cover the keyword approach, which is one of the integral techniques that you apply to every single verbal reasoning question. So today we're going to try and go over three main things. We're going to cover the theory behind the Medic Mind keyword method. We're going to talk about what makes a good keyword, and in fact what a keyword actually is. And then all throughout, we're going to be working on your strategy. We're going to be consolidating your knowledge of how you go about answering verbal reasoning questions by doing some worked examples and talking through the theory step by step. So to start off, I want you to have a go of a question with whatever knowledge of verbal reasoning you have so far. So pause the video now, try and give yourself only 30 seconds and have a go of this question. Come back when you're ready. So hopefully with this question, you'll have spotted that in the passage, we're actually told what tuition fees currently sit at. So at the end of the first paragraph, you're told here that tuition fees in England should be reduced from the current 9,250. So they're currently 9,250, meaning they're very much not currently set at 9,000. So of course, this question is going to actually be false. So well done if you managed to get that one. So I want you to take a moment and think about how you tackled this question. Reflect on how you went about it. If you're one of the people sitting there thinking that, gosh, that was such an intense time stressor, you're not alone. Verbal reasoning is a section that does put you under a lot of time constraints. And you may be sitting there thinking it would have taken you so long to read the passage alone. Nevertheless, read the passage and answer 4 questions in only 2 minutes. So that's why the method that we teach you today is going to be focused on how we save you time within the UCAT. So let's talk through the Medic Mind keyword approach and how someone who would score highly within verbal reasoning would approach this sort of question. So the first thing that we should do is skim read the first 2 sentences and the passage in general. This is to give us an idea of what the passage is talking about and what's covered overall. So we can see that this passage is something about tuition fees, and throughout we cover a bunch of different topics such as tuition fees, events from 2018, and then something about student loans. You shouldn't take long on this step. It should only be about 10 seconds, and just to give you enough idea of what's going on. Now the second thing we do is pick a keyword from the question itself. Now your keyword is something that is going to be easily spotted in the text, because the next step, we're going to look for that keyword in the passage. So here the keyword of 9,000 spots us pretty quickly to that 9,250. And then of course we're just going to read around that bit of the passage there to get an idea of what's going on overall. And then from that, simple as that, we just answer the question. So that was us talking through the keyword approach, but just to help you and give you a little memory aid, here's the 4 steps summed fully through. So first thing you're going to do is skim those first 2 lines and the passage in general. Second thing you're going to do is pick that keyword from the question statement. Thirdly, I want you to look for that keyword somewhere within the passage. And then the final thing you do is read around that bit of the passage around that keyword, and simple as that, answer the question. So when we're looking for that keyword, it's really important that you have synonyms in mind. So for that previous one, we were looking for 9,000 in general. But when I was doing that, I had other synonyms going through my head. I was looking for mainly any number. I was looking for anything that had a pound sign and a number, anything around about 9,000. So it's important when you're searching through that passage, you have synonyms rolling in through your head. So think of all the other ways that we could describe something and be looking for all of those and not just one specific word. So in order to talk through why we do that step 1, why do we start skimming the passage and getting an idea of what's going on? We're just going to do an example to show you why it's useful. So I want you to take this question here. Without reading the passage, what would be your keyword? Now, for this one, I would find it very difficult to choose a keyword between magazines and football. Both of them should be easy to spot. They're both nouns, and they're both going to be fairly visible within a passage. Now, what if I show you the passage here? Would your keyword change? Hopefully you can see that the word magazines is plonked in there all over the shop. So it's not going to be easy to spot. We're going to be basically reading the entire passage if we choose magazines as our keyword. So in this case, it would be better for us to choose our keyword of football. So in doing that 10-second skim at the start, you get to understand the subject of the passage. So for this one, the subject is about magazines. And you get to see the different topics covered. And again, for this one, the topics are just everything about magazines covered in one passage. So as you can see, it would be much easier to pick football as our keyword, as that's less likely to come up. So if we change the passage, but just stick with the exact same question statement, what would be your keyword for this one? Again, hopefully you can see that this passage is about football this time. So the best keyword for us to pick would be magazines. So now that you have that keyword, pause the video and give it a go and see if you can spot where magazines comes up in the passage. So hopefully you can see that magazines comes up just once, fairly easy to spot at this highlighted section here. And from reading that and reading around that keyword, we can thankfully see that the answer here would be A, true. So well done if you managed to get that one. So I want you to just take a moment and just think through your head, what does make a good keyword? What are we looking for when we're picking our keyword? So I'm going to go through the things that I think make a good keyword and what the qualities that I'm looking for. So the first thing is, of course, it can't be appearing all over the passage. It has to be easy to spot. So we're wanting a keyword that does not come up often, which really highlights the importance of that first step. We're also wanting a keyword that is easy to find. So what we mean by that is by just glancing at the passage, it jumps out at us. So a pound sign, a percentage sign, a number, capital letters, proper nouns, all of these things make a keyword really jump out. And in our quick skim of the passage, it makes it quite easy to spot. You wouldn't ever really pick something like a verb or an adjective as your keyword, as there's too many ways to say a verb or an adjective, and they're quite hard to spot in a passage that's just filled with text. The third thing that we're wanting for our keyword is, of course, it has to be relevant to the question. If you finding that keyword is not going to lead you to the answer, there is no point in having that as your keyword. So make sure you're picking a keyword that is relevant to the question and to the statement that you're being asked to appraise. And the final thing we want in a keyword is maybe a bit of a misnomer. Sometimes it could be a turn of phrase or a set of words. So even though we will always describe it as a keyword, just have in mind that a good keyword can actually be a good solid phrase as well. So now that we have an idea of what makes up a good keyword, let's go over some examples and I'll talk you through what I think would be the best keywords to pick from these examples. So this first one here, the thing that jumps out immediately at me is this word of Calais. Calais is a proper noun, it's a name of a place. So it should be fairly easy to spot and it shouldn't be appearing all over the place. It's that capital letter and the fact that it's a proper noun that makes me want to pick that as my keyword. For the second statement here, I'm actually going to go with FFP. So FFP is 3 capital letters, bing bang bosh next to each other. That is going to be standing out so much in the passage. While I'm looking through, of course, it's really important that I may also look out for financial fair play, as there's no saying it's going to be given as the acronym, but still that sort of that 3 words, all capital letters, it should be fairly easy to spot either way. So some other examples. In this one here, the first thing that stands out to me is the fact that we've got a number that we can perhaps use. So that 2,500 calories. Now I'm going to be looking for that number in the context of a gender. So mostly we're given about men here. So I'm going to be looking for the 2,500 calories in relation to male intake. But remember, we could also look for something to do with female here. So that's the importance of having those synonyms running through your head. And for this final one here, it's a bit tricky. It is a more difficult one to find a keyword for. I would personally go with largest quarterly loss, as it's not something that we think is going to come up all the time. Quarterly is quite a specific word, but just bear in mind the synonyms, so we could be thinking of a quarter of a year, or 3 monthly, or we could just have 3 months given next to each other. So always bear in mind that we're thinking of synonyms when we're going through. So let's crack on and do another example now that you can put that keyword approach into practice. So pause the video now and go through your 4 steps of the keyword approach. So let's talk through how we would go about that one together. First of all, think about what keyword did you pick? I would probably go for 2022. It is easy to spot, it's the year, and it should land us in the jackpot straight away. Now I'm going to skim through and, oh dear, okay, actually 2022 doesn't come up anywhere. So would we choose can't tell just now? Well, we've still got some time on the clock, so what we're going to do is choose a different keyword. So what would the second keyword that we pick? Well, for this one, I would think that cancer is actually going to be the best second keyword that I could possibly pick. It's not going to come up all the time. There's not many synonyms for it, so it should be quite easy to spot. And in fact, it is easy to spot. It does come up in the passage at the beginning of the 4th paragraph. So AI is already being used in some hospitals to predict cancer survival. Well, therefore, based on this statement that we have here, it's already being used to predict cancer survival. So that means that it's not going to be done for the first time. So therefore, this question would be false. So that was a tricky one, as our keyword approach didn't land us lucky the first time. But as you can see, choosing a second keyword can actually be very useful. So going over that step 1 again, what did we learn from that first skim read of the passage there? Well, we learned that the subject of the passage is about artificial intelligence in the NHS, which is the reason I did not pick AI as my keyword there. And we also learned about just the general different topics that are covered. So, about the pros of artificial intelligence, the cons and the current use of AI, and then the recent announcements about AI funding. So it's always important that with any approach that we have within the UCAT, we have a contingency. We have that backup plan in case things don't quite go according to plan. Of course, in an ideal world, we would pick our keyword, we would look for it in the passage, we would find it, and we would answer it. But what if it doesn't quite go according to plan? So what if we've searched for our keyword, but we can't find it? So we could either go forward and pick can't tell. If we're running out of time, we would probably just pick can't tell for this one. If it's not mentioned in the passage, it is likely to be a can't tell. Because remember, in order to say if something is true or false, it has to be within the passage. We can't use external knowledge. But if we do have some time on the clock, there are a couple different avenues we could take here. The first thing we could do is choose a second keyword, as you just saw with the artificial intelligence and cancer research one. Cancer proved to be a good keyword for us. So you can go back and pick a second keyword. Additionally, you could just look for synonyms of the word. So if you have picked a word that there's multiple ways to go about describing it, then make sure first that you should be thinking of those synonyms already. But you maybe just have to look for other synonyms of that word in the passage if you've still got time remaining. And then, perhaps a bit too obvious, you could very well have missed that keyword in the passage. It's very easy when rapidly skimming it to miss a keyword the first time round. So you may just have to go back and read again. It's really important that when we're looking for that keyword that we get the perfect balance of going quickly in order to stick to our time, but not too quickly that we end up missing the keyword and getting either a wrong answer or having to go back and search again. So find the perfect speed that allows you to spot a keyword every single time, whilst also going as quickly as possible. So one of the top tips that I can give you is can't tell is the backup option to go with if you cannot find anything in the passage after the 30 seconds are up. Don't spend too long on any single question, as you ruin your chances of getting the next question correct. There are certain different timing strategies that we will talk about in another lesson, but just as a thing to go with just now, if you can't find the keyword and we're approaching the end of our time limit on that question, then select can't tell as your choice. So here's another question for you to have a go of. Again, put that keyword method to the test. Pause the video now and give it a go yourself. So let's talk through how I would have went about this question with the keyword method. First thing I do is read the start of the passage and then skim read the entire thing. So I've got an idea that it's about contactless transactions. I've been told something about London and about the limit of contactless, but right now I know that contactless is going to come up all over the place. So now it's time to pick a key word from the statement here. So we could pick contactless if we wanted to be searching the entire passage. Contactless is not going to be a keyword in this case, as we know that that's a topic of the passage. So it's not going to be appearing rarely as we want for a good keyword. However, that £8, £8 is my go-to there. So choosing that £8, it should be easy to spot as it's got a pound sign. It's got a number as well. And overall, when we're searching throughout that passage, we're going to be looking for sort of any number that's around about £8 in the context of how much people spend on contactless. So when we're looking through the passage, hopefully you'll see quite easily that it comes up in the second paragraph here. The average contactless transaction is for £8.60. Grand. So we'll just read before and after that to get an idea of what's going on, and then we move on to answer our question. Now, even if you spotted this one, the difficulty of this question isn't over yet. What we've been told is the average contactless transaction is £8.60. Now, that does not mean that the majority of people spend over £8. Just with, simple mean and sort of mode, our mean can be higher just based on a couple of outliers. So we can have the majority of people spending £8 on average, but we've got a few people that spend maybe like 25, 30. That's going to bump that average up to above £8. So an average does not correlate to the majority. So for this one, we're still actually going to have to pick cannot tell. So it is a tricky one, but well done if you managed to get that one right. So again, one of the top tips in this may be the QR lover within me coming through, but anytime you see mathematical questions come up with verbal reasoning, just make sure that you do read and understand what's going on. There are quite a few maths questions within verbal reasoning, so just make sure that you really know what the question is asking and what the passage is saying, as they can be a common trap that people fall into. So have a good understanding of the mathematical principles that you'll learn from quantitative reasoning, and remember that sometimes you may need to apply this within verbal reasoning. So we've got one final question to put this final approach to the test. So in this one, I want you to first note that there's going to be 4 different statements here. So you're actually going to need to pick a keyword for each of the statements A, B, C, D. So pause the video now and give this one a go. So let's talk through how we would approach this question in context of the keyword approach. So again, remember that first step is going to be reading through the first couple of lines of the passage and then skim reading the entire thing to get an idea of what's going on. So in this one, I know it's something about plastic straws, recycling, blah, 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 blah. That's all I need to know for this stage. Now to pick a keyword for each of the 4 statements here. So we're sticking with the first statement. We're not going to pick plastic straws as our keyword, as again, that's going to come up everywhere. So we're going to pick non-biodegradable as our keyword here. So looking for that somewhere in the passage, you can see that it actually does come up right at the beginning of the second paragraph. And for this one, we've actually already got the answer. As you can see from reading this highlighted bit here, the plastic straws are not biodegradable. So therefore, we know that our answer is A, and we can pick that and go ahead with that being true. But just to fully complete and give us more practice of picking a keyword, let's just go through the other 3 statements for fun anyway. So the second statement we've got here, the keyword that I would pick would be gin and tonic. It's not something that I can think of many synonyms for. I'd maybe have in my mind G&T, but apart from that, there's not much else we can look for here. So looking for gin and tonic, and you can see that it does come up at the end of the 3rd paragraph, and it's, why would we ever need a straw for gin and tonic? So clearly, we don't need them for gin and tonic. So therefore, B must be false. So thinking of answer option C here, what's our keyword going to be? Well, I see capital letters and a brand name. So Lucozade Sport is going to be a good bet for me here because it's not going to come up too often. And rightly so, it only comes up once and it comes up in the second paragraph. And reading that bit there, we were not actually told anything about their stance on the tax of plastic straws. So we can't say that this is true or false. So we're going to rule out option C. And finally, D, we're going to look for a keyword of restaurants probably. Now on first look, I don't really find restaurants anywhere at all. But if I'm thinking of synonyms and I'm just looking for any sort of name of eating establishment, so I'm looking for, diners, pubs, bars, all of that jazz is just going through my head. And when I'm looking through, I'm also looking for those words. And if we do look at that, we do see that actually pubs and bars do come up. And just reading around that keyword there, we can also see that D is false as well. So therefore, A is going to be our winner, as we already knew from the beginning, but that just gives you a good practice of finding 4 different keywords. So hopefully you followed all of that and you've seen why we've chosen the keywords that we did, and equally seen the importance of using that first step to get an idea of what's going on in the passage. So we've covered the 4 steps of the keyword method that hopefully you have really ingrained into you now, and you should be using any time you approach a verbal reasoning passage. We've also went over what makes a good keyword, and this is going to be something that you'll continually develop the more practice that you do. You'll be able to naturally and quickly spot a good keyword faster and faster each time. And of course, we've also went over some backup strategies on what to do if we just haven't found a keyword the first time round. But as you see, there's always other things that we can do in order to answer these questions quickly and accurately. So of course, in order to consolidate everything in this lesson, try some verbal reasoning questions and put this newfound technique to the test and really try and consolidate all the theory that you've learned today. Well done on making it through another lesson on the verbal reasoning section of the UCAT, and I hope that was useful for you. So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment below, and share it with your friends so that they don't miss anything out on the journey into medical school. To unlock the rest of the series, which is 70 videos including live walkthroughs and over 1,000 different questions, just click the link in the description below.